Canadians seem to be running out of money before they run out of month. Well, folks, it looks like we're in a recession, and the Auditor General is getting in some heat. I want to thank everyone who watched the inaugural episode of the podcast. We still don't have a name for it, so I want to thank everyone for watching that launch on Monday. It took a lot of time and effort. I want to thank everybody who took part in that. Michael, Matthew, Matt, all the folks that participated. We got a good group of guests that are going to be on future episodes, so thank you very much. The number of submissions for a name for that podcast has been quite interesting. We got a whole bunch of people sending in names, and we got some crazy ones. We got the Uncensored Owl, Ruffled Feathers, the Wise Owl, Lending Wisdom, Hoots and Homes, the Hoot, Owl Estate Mortgage, Mortgage Hoot, Market Talk with Vince, Truth with Vince, True North Podcast, Off the Cuff, Who Gives a Hoot. There's a whole bunch. It's just unbelievable. So I appreciate all those suggestions. Please keep them coming. But first, let's talk about this recession. I really think we're into it. And the reality is businesses are in big trouble. You know, insolvency rates are going through the roof. Corporations are going bankrupt at a record pace. This is all going to eventually impact the labor market, and it's going to start rolling over into lost jobs, and we're starting to feel it. You know, the private sector payrolls, they're declining and have declined over the past 6 months, and that's the first time that's happened since the lockdown, as well as previous to that, the great financial crisis. So we're starting to see things that we haven't seen in a very long time, and although GDP is positive, the GDP per capita has been down, and it's been down for 5 straight quarters, which tells us that population growth is what was driving GDP. And with the government now putting caps on work permits as well as study permits, it's going to be really tough to get to that 800,000 plus non-permanent resident figure that we've been used to the last couple of years. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to start seeing maybe half that total, and it's then going to really cause GDP to go south. On that note, we are seeing mortgage delinquencies go up, okay? And some think that they'll double, which is startling. But what we have to do is we have to take account of the fact that mortgage delinquencies have always been very low in Canada, sitting at around 13 to 16%. It has popped up to, 13 to 16 basis points, which is 0.13, 0.16%. It's gone up as high as 0.18, which is high relative to where it was, and the norm has always been about 0.3. So even if we double delinquencies, we're going to get back up to that norm, which, although the doubling of delinquencies sounds dramatic, in relative terms, it's not that big a deal in the grand scheme of things. But we are seeing folks starting to struggle. And the cost of living crisis is becoming widespread across the country, and it's leading a lot of people to worry about what's coming in April with the additional increase to the carbon tax by 23%. So I think it's really incumbent on all of us to reach out to our MPs and try to plead for them to maybe put a pause to it and give us a break. Let's not make April 1st a joke for this topic, but we really got to do our best to let these MPs know that this isn't the time to impose this tax and think of kicking it down the road till things recover a little bit. So let's think about where rates are going. Rates have been pretty much stable. They haven't really done much. They've gone up this past week a little bit, but nothing in the cards that we're seeing a rate decrease anytime soon. A couple of economists that I am in tune with have indicated that this recession could push the Bank of Canada to make some bigger cuts later in the year if things start getting a little bit dire. Time will tell whether that'll happen. I'm not so sure that Tiff and his merry folks at the Bank of Canada are really keen on appeasing this government. Until they see some spending, and I think we have the Minister of Finance's budget tabled mid-April, until we see what type of spending she's got in store for people. And if they continue to spend, I just can't see how Tiff can continue to talk about rate cuts. We need some stability. We need some of the damage to be inflicted before they are going to take the foot off the pedal and look at decreasing rates. So we'll see what happens. Now, the Auditor General of Canada this week reported that 3 people were fired for participating in Government of Canada contracts. Now, the Auditor General of Canada is the watchdog for the government, and they are the person that oversees how things are being spent. When you have 3 people in their own department that is participating in government contracts and double dipping, okay, we got a real problem. Okay, there's got to be a little bit more oversight. And this is the same Auditor General that just reported with a scathing report of the ArriveCan contract scandal. Okay, that was supposed to be $80,000, turned into over $250 million in contracts issued out. And she's got 3 of her own employees that participated in contracts and submitted requests to the procurement department for contracts from other areas of the government. Folks, if the watchdog is doing it, how many other people are doing it? Like, these folks supposedly were fired. They've called in the Ottawa police to investigate some wrongdoing. The Ottawa police have reported that they can't comment unless there's charges laid. So obviously there's no charges laid yet. But at what point are folks that are abusing Canadian tax dollars criminally charged and put in jail? And as my friend Ron Butler has pointed out on his podcast, no one's going to jail. Everybody just gets a slap on the wrist. There's no consequence in this country. And the taxpayer, the money that taxpayers, you, myself, pay in taxes is not respected. It's being disintegrated, as Ron pointed out. It's going up in smoke. Nobody gives a shit about our tax dollar. And when you see abuses at this level, you have to wonder what is going on. So I don't know, folks. We need help solving this problem. It doesn't appear to be on the radar of our Prime Minister. It doesn't appear to be on anybody's radar to clean this stuff up. We need criminal charges. We need people to go to jail for this to stop, because if there are consequences, people will stop doing it. But when it's just a slap on the wrist, why wouldn't somebody take $3-4 million if they're just going to lose their $70,000 job? Think of it, folks. Risk reward. The risk is I lose my job and a slap on the wrist, or I could walk away with 3, 4, 5, in some cases $20-30 million. Like, how do we get these government jobs? How do we get a piece of it? Because if there's no consequence, more and more folks are going to do it. So we need to replace this whole system with something with some teeth, some consequences, and folks, demand accountability from your MPs, politicians from all levels of government, because this is starting to become a banana republic. This is absolutely bullshit. But anyways, enough of my rant. If anybody receives a video of me, because I'm on social media, YouTube and all that, my image and my voice is out there. If you receive any communication from me asking you for cryptocurrency investment, any type of too good to be true investment idea, and you have not spoken to me personally before doing anything, it's fraud. I'm just going to put it out there. It's fraud. So if anybody sees anything with my likeness asking you to do something that seems a little bit odd, pick up the phone and call our office, okay? Because chances are it's a scam, it's a fraud, it's happening all over the place. I've almost fallen victim to it. My wife has almost fallen victim to it. And we need to make sure we do our due diligence and do your checks. So I will not be selling any crypto, any silly investments, any type of NFTs or anything like that, or you know, there's no get rich quick scheme. It's all about hard work, doing your due diligence on your investment strategy. And if you see anything like this, please call my office to verify it, because that's not happening. And you know, there's a lot of people out there scamming images and voices and all that stuff. So be warned, I don't do any of that stuff. So on that note, let's go into the questions. So put on your hockey helmets, tighten the chin strap, and we're going to go into some questions. How do you verify down payment for a mortgage approval? Okay, that's a very good question. A lot of clients, when they're buying a new home, have to verify that the down payment's coming from their own resources. And lenders that approve these mortgages need to validate that these funds are theirs, okay? Unless there's a gift being made to the borrower from a parent or guardian. Okay, now the verification process needs to validate that the borrower has had those funds for at least 90 days. So what we do is we usually ask for investment statements or bank statements for a 90-day period minimum to validate that those funds were in possession of that borrower for that period of time. So it could be investment statements, it could be bank statements, it could be RSP statements, it could be the sale of a property. If it's a sale of a property, we would need the sale agreement and a ledger statement from the lawyer showing the proceeds from the sale been deposited to your bank account, which will be verified. And the reason why this is becoming more and more critical is the banks are all trying to make sure there's no money laundering, there's no fraudulent activity taking place, or the funds are coming from illegal gains. So we are getting a little bit more tighter on the documentation requirement for down payment in addition to income and all that. So if you're buying, be prepared to provide these documents. Make sure you have access to online bank statements. If you're getting paper copies, keep them if you're in the purchasing cycle, because you're going to need them and you'll be prepared and you're not going to be surprised when you need this. And if you could get them earlier, all the better, so you're not scrambling at the last minute to try to collect them when you've packed things and you can't find them and stuff like that. So hopefully that helps. What percentages of mortgages do you believe involve fraud in the GTA? This is from J. Blair 247. Well, listen, fraud's been on everybody's mind lately. It's been in the news. It's been talked about quite a bit. You know, there's estimates that it could be anywhere between 5 and 9% of transactions. The type of fraud is very difficult to nail down. A lot of it is fraud for shelter, where it's income that's being manipulated to try to get people approved for better rates and mortgage amounts. So, you know, the estimates are between 5 and 9%. Really tough to nail down what it is, but that's, again, my opinion. You know, there's some people that have some figures from certain reports, but again, most of them are all estimates. And the reality is that this type of fraud does impact home values. There was an RCMP report at one point in time a few years back that indicated that mortgage fraud contributed to the escalation of property values anywhere from 6 to 8%. Okay, so just think of those folks in bidding wars, if there's somebody there bidding that knows they could fraudulently get a mortgage approved, they're probably going to win the bid, knowing that doesn't matter what the limit is because they're going to get the mortgage anyways. So that was the thought and the thinking of that report. And that's unfortunate. And there's ways to eliminate this sort of stuff with a direct link to CRA. Again, a good friend of mine, Ron Butler, has been an advocate for this link, and I agree with him. There should be a link for mortgage professionals to validate the income that someone provides me on their income tax forms with CRA. We're not asking CRA to tell us what the number is. The client's already given us the document, and we just call in and verify, punch in, this is the income reported on line 15,000 of the tax return. Is it correct, yes or no? And if it's incorrect, just say it's incorrect. And that technology and that availability is there. The question is, why is the government not allowing this link to happen? Because it is something that could be done quite quickly. The resources are there because they're giving out fucking contracts like you wouldn't believe to people that shouldn't be getting them. So they do have the resources to make this happen. And that's another issue that we should be asking for some accountability, because if we could eliminate this, it takes away a lot of the players, the bad actors in the bidding wars and in the offer portion of the process to not bid up property values beyond what they're worth. Okay, so there's my take on it. Hey, great job doing the show. Thank you. Sachu Kia Diem. When rates come down a bit, you're my guy. Another nice little note. Why do lenders only allow you to make prepayments on your mortgage annually? Okay, well, first of all, that's not necessarily correct. You know, prepayments are an interesting thing. A very small portion of people that have mortgages take advantage of them. I think it's less than 15%. And the reality is depending on the lender, the prepayment privileges are quite flexible in most cases. So if your lender's only giving you a prepayment on the anniversary date, it's probably an alternative lender, a subprime lender, because most of the A lenders will allow you to make prepayments at any time or any payment date. Some of the big banks, and I'll talk for Scotiabank, they will allow you to make a prepayment from your account right into the mortgage online, and it takes effect immediately. So, you know, I get into the habit of every time my mortgage payment is made, I go in and I pay it down to the nearest $1,000. Like, that's my way of making my prepayment. So every time I make a payment, if I owe, you know, $212,762, I'll make a lump sum of $762 to know that I only owe to the $1,000. And I'm sure other lenders offer that solution as well, so you can make it any time. And where you're restricted is usually on the alternative side, where they will only allow you to do it on the anniversary date or only at a limited basis. But it is something that you should take advantage of on an ongoing basis to get to zero fast. At the end of the day, your goal is to get to zero. Back in the day, you're going to laugh at this, but when I started in this mortgage business back in 1989, I was with a company called Canada Trust before TD Bank bought it. And they used to have mortgage burning kits. There were kits that were given to people who paid off their mortgage. You know, it's a little bucket, and a little lighter, and they could burn up their mortgage documents and celebrate. It was a little way of saying, hey, you've done a great job, you're down to zero, you don't owe anybody anything. They're gone. They're lost. You don't see those parties happening anymore. And I think we got to start bringing that back, because the mindset has to be to get rid of the debt. And when you owe nobody anything, nobody controls you. And that should be the goal of every homeowner, is to eventually pay it off, get to zero as fast as you can. And the reality is prepayment privileges are one of the things that allow you to do it. So hopefully that helps out. And if anybody needs any help with accelerating the repayment of their mortgage, give us a call. We'll be happy to give you a strategy to get you to that point in the near future. So on that note, I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Again, I want to let people know that the podcast has been launched. It took us a while to get there, but we launched our first podcast on Monday, and the next episode is coming out this Monday again, so it'll be every Monday. And we're still looking for that podcast name. So if you do have any ideas, please send me a DM. Please send a note in the comments, and we'd be happy to consider it and let you know what it's going to be this Monday. Take care and have a good one.